In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the definition of tariff and various types of tariffs. It is true that the free international trade can maximize world output and welfare, yet practically all the countries have been imposing one or the other restriction upon the free flow of goods and services. Some especially powerful groups in a country that are likely to be benefited by these trade restrictions generally advocate the restrictive or protective commercial policies. Among the barriers or restrictions to trade, the most important are the tariffs. In this lecture, we'll discuss about the definition of tariff and the various types of tariffs depending on the various commercial policies and legislatures of a specific country. First of all, let us define and let us discuss the meaning of tariffs. A tariff is a duty or tax imposed by the government of a country upon the traded commodity as it crosses the national boundaries. Tariff can be levied both upon the exports and imports. The tariff or duty imposed upon the goods originating in the home country and scheduled for abroad are called as the export duties. Countries interested in maximizing their exports generally avoid the use of export duties. Tariffs have therefore become synonymous with import duties. The import duties or import tariffs are levied upon the goods originating from abroad and scheduled for the home country. Sometimes a country may also resort to what is called as a transit duty. It is imposed upon the goods originating in the foreign country and scheduled for a third country crossing the borders of the home country. For instance, if India imposes tariffs on goods that Bangladesh exports to Nepal through the Indian territory, these will be called as transit duties. Such duties are usually a matter of much concern for the landlocked countries. The imposition of import tariff results in the relative changes in prices of products and factors. That brings about a significant change in the structure of international trade. High tariffs certainly have the effect of restricting the volume of international trade. A negative tariff or subsidy is often supposed to expand foreign trade over and above its volume in the absence of subsidy. Now, we are going to discuss about the various types of tariffs. So, tariffs are of several types and these can be classified into different groups or subgroups. Number one classification is on the basis of criteria for imposition. On the basis of the criteria for imposition of tariffs, this can be of such types as number one, specific tariff, number two, ad valorem tariff, number three, compound tariff, and number four, sliding scale tariff. So first of all, specific tariff. Specific tariff is the fixed amount of money per physical unit or according to the weight or measurement of the commodity imported or exported. So, specific tariffs are generally imposed on the physical quantity. Such duties can be levied on such goods as wheat, rice, fertilizers, cement, sugar, cloth, etc. Specific duties are quite easy to administer, and this is its foremost advantage. Specific duties do not involve the evaluation of the goods. That means the price is not involved here. The determination of the value of the traded goods may be difficult as there are several variants of price such as demand price, supply price, market price, contract price, invoice price, FOB, that means free on board price, CIF, that means cost, insurance, freight price, etc. The resort to specific duties enables the government to keep out of complexities of prices. However, the specific duties cannot be levied on high-valued goods such as diamonds, jewelries, watches, TV sets, motor cars, works of arts like paintings, etc. These articles can be taxed either on the basis of weight, surface area covered, or the number of articles. The next important tariff is ad valorem tariff. Ad valorem is the Latin word that means on the value. When the duty is levied as a fixed percentage of the value of the traded commodity, it is called as valorem tariff. Such duties are levied on the products the value of which is disproportionately higher compared to their physical characteristics such as weight or measurement. These duties are more equitable as the costly goods generally consumed by the rich bear greater burden of duty, while the cheaper goods bought by the poor bear the lesser burden of tariff. For instance, if the import of watches is subject to 70% ad valorem tariff, a watch valued at rupees 900 will be subject to a duty of rupees 630, and a watch valued at rupees 1000 will be subject to a tariff amounting to rupees 700. The ad valorem duties have an additional advantage that the international comparison of tariffs in their case can be easily made, since only the physical quantities are measured. Next important tariff is the compound tariff. The compound tariff is a combination of specific and ad valorem tariff. The structure of compound tariff includes specific duty on each unit of the commodity plus a percentage of ad valorem duty. The compound tariffs not only impart a greater elasticity to revenues but also assure a more effective protection to the home industries. So it is a flexible type of tariff. Next tariff is sliding scale tariff. The import duties, which vary with the prices of the commodities are termed as sliding scale duties. This may either be on specific or ad valorem basis. So this tariff is highly flexible. In practice, these are generally on a specific basis. The next type of classification is on the basis of purpose for which tariff is imposed. On the basis of purpose of levying the tariff, this can be of two types. Number one, revenue tariff, and number two, protective tariff. Number one, revenue tariff. The tariff, which is imposed primarily for generating more revenues for the government, is called as the revenue tariff. So, the prime motto of this tariff is the generation of revenue. In advanced countries, the introduction and diversification of direct taxes has reduced the importance of tariff as a source of government revenues. But in the less developed countries, there is still much relevance or reliance of the governments on this type of source of revenue. Generally, pure revenue tariff is not possible. The imposition of tariff, even for the purpose of securing revenues, does have protective effect when it leads to switch of demand by the domestic consumers from the imported to home produced goods. The next type of tariff is the protective tariff. The tariff may be imposed by the government to protect the home industries from the cutthroat competition from the foreign produced goods. The higher the tariff, greater may be the protective effect of tariff. A protective tariff is likely to prohibit completely the import from abroad. In practice, the perfect protective tariff may not exist. If the domestic demand for import remains strong, there can be the possibility of smuggling imported goods. In addition, such a tariff will not yield any revenue to the government. A high rate of protective tariff can make the domestic producers more lethargic and inefficient and unable to face foreign competition even in the long run. However, most of the developing countries nowadays take resort to this type of tariff to protect their home industries. The next classification of tariff is based on the basis of discrimination. If the tariff is influenced by the consideration of discrimination, there can be two types of tariffs. Number one, non-discriminatory, and number two, discriminatory. So, non-discriminatory tariff: if the uniform tariff rates are applicable to all the commodities irrespective of the country of origin, these are known as non-discriminatory tariffs. It is possible that low rates of tariffs on certain commodities exist because of commercial agreements with some countries, but the tariff imposing home country extends the same low tariff rates to the commodities of all the countries. Such a system of non-discriminatory tariff is called as single column tariff. So it is clear that in single column tariff, a uniform tariff rate is imposed for all the countries. This system of tariff is easy and simple to administer. There is, however, one deficiency, that it is not elastic enough to adjust according to the changing needs of the industries of the home country. From the viewpoint of revenues too, it may not be too satisfactory for the tariff imposing country. Next one is the discriminatory tariff. In case of discriminatory tariff, the varying tariff rates exist for different commodities. The products originating from favored countries are subject to a lower tariff rate than those of other countries. So, the favored nations or countries enjoy a kind of discrimination here by the home country or the tariff imposing country. The discriminatory tariffs can be double or multiple column tariffs. In case of the double column tariff, two different rates of duty or tariff rate exist for all or some commodities. Both the rates are either announced by the government right from the beginning, or the two rates come into existence after the country enters into favored nation commercial agreement with some foreign countries. The favored rates of tariff may either be on a unilateral basis or on a reciprocal basis. The double column tariff can be further classified as general and conventional tariff and maximum and minimum tariff. General and conventional tariff. The general tariff schedule is determined by the state legislature. It also makes provision for the adjustment in tariff rates as and when required to fulfill the obligations of international commercial agreements. The conventional tariff schedule is evolved through the commercial agreements of the home country with other countries. It does not permit changes in tariff rates according to the changes in domestic conditions or requirements. The changes can be possible only after negotiations and agreements are reached between the concerned countries or after the expiry of the existing agreement. It is clear that there is some rigidity in the conventional tariff schedule. In contrast, the general tariff schedule is more flexible. The next one is maximum and minimum tariff. So under this system, a country has maximum and minimum tariff rates for every commodity. These tariff rates are fixed by the legislature, and the government is authorized to apply specific rates of tariff to the goods imported from the different countries. The minimum tariff rates are applied to the products originating from the countries treated as the most favored nations. The maximum tariff rates are applied for the purpose of improving the bargaining position of the home country in relation to the foreign countries. So it is obvious that under discriminatory tariffs, a country can impose or apply different rates of tariff depending on their commercial agreements with different countries. The next one is multiple column tariff. The multiple column tariff consists of three different rates of tariff: a general rate, an international rate, and a preferential rate. So, there are more than two rates applied under this multiple column tariff. The general and international tariff rates can be considered equivalent to the maximum and minimum tariff rates as already discussed. The preferential tariff is generally applied by a subject country to the products originating from the colonial countries. The preferential tariff rate is kept lower than the general rate of tariff. For instance, the goods imported by India from Britain before independence were subjected to a lower tariff or duty-free on account of imperial preferences. On the other hand, the goods imported from other countries such as Japan, Germany, and others were subject to higher rates of tariff. The next classification is on the basis of products. Whether a product is imported or exported can be the basis of tariff. On this basis, the tariffs can be: number one, import duties. If the home country imposes tariff upon the products of the foreign countries as they enter its territory, the tariff is known as import tariff or import duty. The next one is export duties or export tariffs. If the products of the home country become subject to tax as they leave its territory to be sold in the foreign market, the tax or duty is called as export tariff or export duty. The import tariffs have remained the matter of deep interest both for analytical and policy reasons. These are far more widespread and almost every country takes resort to them. In contrast, the export duties are applied to very limited extent. Some countries like the USA have prohibited export duties by law. Even in those countries where these are invoked, the basic purpose is to secure larger revenues. The next classification of tariff is on the basis of retaliation. On this basis, the tariffs can be of the types of retaliatory tariffs and countervailing tariffs. So first of all, retaliatory tariffs. If a foreign country has imposed tariffs upon the exports from the home country and the latter imposes tariffs against the products of the former the tariffs resorted to by the home country will be regarded as the retaliatory tariffs. The home country, while adopting this measure, does not either have the object of raising revenues or protecting home industries but of acting in retaliation. So, the sole purpose of the tariff imposing country is of retaliation. Next one is countervailing tariffs. If the foreign country has been exporting large quantities of its products in the market of the home country on the strength of export subsidies, the home country can neutralize the unfair advantage enjoyed by foreign products through imposing duties upon them as they enter the territory of the home country. The latter has full justification for resorting to these countervailing duties in order that the unfair advantage given by exports subsidies to the foreign products is offset and the competition takes place on equal footing between the foreign and home produced goods.